All right, 43. We often also put one word catachrestically, catachrestically for another, not with that elegance indeed which there is in metaphor, but though this is done licentiously, it is sometimes done inoffensively, as when we say a great speech for a long one, a minute soul for a little one. A minute soul, minute soul for a little one. But have you perceived that those elegances which arise from the connection of several metaphors do not, as I observe, lie in one word, but in a series of words? But all those modes of expression which I said lay in the change of a word are to be understood differently from what is expressed are in some measure metaphorical. Hence, it happens that all the virtue and merit of single words consists in three particulars. If a word be antique, but such, however, as usage will tolerate, if it be formed by composition or newly invented, where regard is to be paid to the judgment of the car and to custom, or if it be used metaphorically, peculiarities which eminently distinguish and brighten language as with so many stars. The composition of words follows next, which principally requires attention to two things. First, collocation, and next, a certain modulation in form. The collocation it belongs to compose and arrange the words in such a way that their junction may not be rough or gaping, but compact, as it were, and smooth, in reference to which qualities of style the poet Lucilius, who could do most elegantly, has expressed himself wittily and sportively in the character of my father-in-law. How elegantly are his words arranged, all like square stones inserted skillfully in pavements, which formiculated emblems. And after saying this in ridicule of Albusius, he does not refrain from touching on me. If I've Crassius for a son-in-law, nor think yourself more of an orator. What then this Crassius, of whose name you, Lucilius, make such free use, what does he attempt? The very same thing indeed as Scaevola wished, and as I would wish, but with somewhat better effect than Albusius. Lucilius spoke jestingly with regard to me according to his custom. However, such an arrangement of words is to be observed as that of which I was speaking. Such a one as many, no, such a one as may give a compactness and coherence to the language in a smooth and equal flow. This you will attain if you join the extremities of the antecedent words to the commencements of those that follow in such a manner that there be no rough clashing in the consonants, nor wide hiatus in the vowels. 45. Next to the diligent attention to this particular follows modulation and harmonious structure of the words, a point I fear that may seem puerile to our friend Catullus here. The ancients, however, imagined in prose a harmony almost like that of poetry. That is, they thought that we ought to adopt a sort of numbers, for they wished that there should be short phrases and speeches to allow us to recover and not lose our breath, and that they should be distinguished not by the marks of transcribers, but according to the modulation of the words and sentences. And this practice Issachus is said to have been the first to introduce, that he might, as his scholar Nocrates writes, confine the rude manner of speaking among those of antiquity within certain numbers to give pleasure and captivate the ear. For musicians, who were also the poets of former ages, contrived these two things as the ministers of pleasure, verse and song, that they might banish satiety from the sense of hearing by gratification arising from the numbers of languages and the modulation of notes. These two things, therefore, I mean the musical management of the voice and the harmonious structure of words, should be transferred, they thought, as far as the strictness of prose will admit, from poetry to oratory. On this head, it is remarkable that if a verse be formed by the composition of words in prose, it is a fault, yet we wish to such composition to have a harmonious cadence, roundness, and finish, like verse. Nor is there any single quality out of many that more distinguishes a true orator from the an unskillful and ignorant speaker than that he who is unpracticed pours forth all he can without discrimination and measures out the periods of his speech, not with art, but by the power of his breath. But the orator clothes his thoughts in such a manner as to comprise them in a flow of numbers, at once confined to measure, yet free from restraints. For after restricting it to proper modulation and structure, he gives it an ease and freedom by a variety in the flow, so that the words are neither bound by strict laws as those of verse, nor yet have such a degree of liberty as to wander without control.